but sources have seen that report, and that report says that he was shot at in the back, on his upper shoulder, from the back, and there were 15 bullets, almost like at the same spot, which means if you are firing indiscriminately at a crowd, you can't have 15 bullets at almost one place, which means you have shot at him with the intention to kill. And lot of some witnesses that we met, they said that they fired at his body even after he had fallen, and he fell face down, which means you shot him. Again, there is another proof that he shot at him from behind, and his body was found 5 meters away from the gate of the police station. Now, if he was inside the police station, it's a huge compound. With 15 bullets in his body, he couldn't have run all the way and then fallen on the road face down. I mean, it's really preposterous to even think that something like that could have happened. Which means that he was standing, he was running away when you fired shots in the air, and he was unarmed, and you fired at him with the intention to kill. Then they turned the gun to kill Linga Nachika, but this boy Andrew, he came in between, and he was shot at, and Linga managed to escape. And then, from what the villagers told us, there were around 50 to 60 more people who were injured. But when they started firing and people started running here, there, everybody just ran away. And for the next 3-4 days, there were combing operations. People were not allowed to go in. People were being arrested indiscriminately. And they threatened the medical officer at Narayanpatna police station, primary health center, that if anybody comes here to get treatment, you're going to inform us. And many villagers we spoke to, they said that they called him up, the doctor, and asked him to come. He said, I can't come. So, till now, there has not been a counting of how many people have been injured in the police station. Nor we filed an RTI also to get the serial number of the bullets which were fired, which were found. See, there is a rule in the police that after a firing, you are supposed to, your daily diary, you are supposed to pick up the unused bullets or the used bullets found in the ground and enter their serial numbers. But they have not done that. Now they are saying that we fired 82 rounds, 89 rounds. There is one more Orissa State Armed Police OSAP report which says 98 rounds were fired. So there are a lot of conflicting news. And the SP's report says that first he said 4 rounds were fired by the tribals. They snatched 2 self-loading assault rifles. And if you go and even now if you talk to them, they say we have never even held anything from a bow and arrow. So how do we even know how to unlock it? And it's not that a self-loading assault rifle would be left unlocked. It's obviously locked. So for them to have snatched, unlocked it and fired back at the police is again another huge lie. So the first SP said that 4 rounds were fired. Then in a press conference he said 22 rounds were fired. Then he filed an official report which said 4 rounds were fired. Then he was challenged on that 4 rounds and he said, oh, it's a typical typological error, and again it was reverted back to 22 rounds. So now the official version is that 82 rounds were fired, of which 22 rounds were fired by the tribals on the police, and therefore they fired back in self-defense. This is the official version now, which is final.
One strategy of the state is to demarcate these areas, Dantewada, Narayanpatna, these sort of war zones, and so people from outside locations, they can't go in. The all-women's fact-finding team, a lot of problems. So you could talk about that.
See, the women's fact-finding team, that was a very, very strategic. They wanted. See, that was the first time that the non-tribals of Narayanpatna town attacked any team coming from outside. Till then, the guy went once, and then Sanjana, the Telka team went once, and there were some other people also who went. They were not stopped, but they started realizing that if we go on allowing people from outside, then a lot of things which is happening inside is going to come out. And so the attack on the women's team, and which was the first time that a all India team went. Till then, I think it was only local people who were going in. Some people from Andhra, ABCLC, and these kind of people, or civil society members from Korak. It was the first time that an all India team was going. So if you attack them, we're going to give a message to people outside that you can't go in, and that we are not going to allow any platform to happen. So that attack was also the first, incident where they announced, where through these non-tribals, the police and the administration kind of gave a message to the world that you're not welcome, you can't go in. And since then, whichever team has tried to go in or individuals have tried to go in, they have not allowed. Like, you have this. It's not only that the police is cordoning it off, but you also have that, a lot of the peripheral support, logistics kind of thing. If you go to them, they're going to tell you that no, we have this tax association resolution, we can't go against it. If you give them 5,000 also, they will say no, we can't go. So, you don't allow people to go in, you're going to ensure that nobody knows what's happening inside. And the fact that till the lawyers went in and did a head count, nobody knew there were 100 people. Even now, no report, I think no newspaper, no channel has said that the maximum reporting has been done till 69. After that has been totally silent. Even I didn't know. It was only when those 3 lawyers, they went in and did a head count, and that also, they saw from the register, from the dates. And then they went and talked to the people, and they found out that there were 104 people. But even they are saying that there might be more. So there is no news at all about how many people are being arrested, what are the cases. Now, if you look at any report, go through any report, nobody talks about children being arrested. Nobody talks about children being arrested.
This sort of aspect of the state, like you said, no news, and people from outside locations, until the state comes down on movements, like the one at Narayanpatna, until state repression, we don't know about movements in that sense. So, how do you envisage an alternate media that, that movemental media, which brings forth and foregrounds this sort of news?
One thing that I would like to add to the question is that if a movemental media emerges, which will sort of, disseminate news and analyze it in a certain way, and it will have to be local to a certain extent, then automatically one knows that other media, the mainstream media, the more mainstream media, the local forces, they will come down on this alternative media. In which case, this alternative media, as we understand it, can in no way be separate from the movement there, since the problems they face will be different. In which case, it automatically becomes a political intervention. So, what I would like to add to that is that, what do you think? This alternative media, in what sense can it actually be a political intervention?
No, see, by the fact that you're going to report news channels or what the so-called mainstream media reports now are reports which are totally depoliticized. They never talk about the context. Nobody ever talked about why the Chasimulya Adivasi even emerged. Why was there a need for the tribals to organize in an uprising? Why was the need?